I still remember the day the river stopped flowing. It wasn't because of drought or some natural thing. It was because of him, the prince who thought he owned everything. I'm a fisherman from Bwera, a small village near Lake Victoria in Uganda. My name is Kato, and this story isn't one I like to tell, but it needs to be said. It's about Prince Wamala, the son of the king up north. He was no ordinary prince. His shadow never moved with the sun, and his staff was carved with serpents that hissed whenever he lied. People whispered that his magic came at a cost: cruelty. One year, our village thrived. The rains came on time, the crops grew tall, and the lake brimmed with fish. But then Prince Wamala arrived. He didn't come alone. He brought soldiers armed with spears and shields. They set up camp by the river where we fetched water every morning. At first, nobody knew why they were there. Then one evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, the prince called everyone to gather under an old mango tree. He stood tall, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "This land belongs to me," he declared. "From now on, you will pay me before you take anything from the river." People exchanged uneasy glances. For water? We'd never heard of such a thing. A woman named Nalango, her hands calloused from years of tilling soil, stepped forward. "Prince Wamala," she said firmly, "the river has always been free. How can you ask us to pay?" His lips curled into a smirk. "If you don't pay, the river will dry up." We laughed, thinking it impossible. But later that night, something strange happened. When we went to fetch water, the riverbed was empty, not just low, but bone-dry, as if someone had drained every drop. The moonlight reflected off jagged stones instead of shimmering waves. Everyone panicked. Without water, how would we cook, wash, or grow food? The next morning, guards stood at the edge of the dried-up river, demanding payment for even a sip of water. Some villagers tried to sneak past them, but the guards caught them and beat them. My friend Sula ended up with bruises so bad he couldn't work for weeks. That's when I decided to act. My family relied on the river more than most. My father taught me to fish here, and without it, his spirit would weep. I couldn't sit by while my children starved or my wife cried herself to sleep over empty pots. I went to see the elders, hoping they'd help. They shook their heads sadly. "He's too powerful," they said. "No one dares go against him." But I couldn't give up. That night, I snuck out with a group of friends. Following the river upstream, we discovered what had happened. The prince's men had built a dam using jagged stones and eerie charms tied with black thread. Behind it, the water pooled into a stagnant lake, guarded by more soldiers. "We have to destroy it," I whispered to my friends. But they backed away, afraid. "If we're caught, he'll kill us." I understood their fear, but I couldn't let it stop me. That night, I worked alone, chipping away at the dam with a sharp rock. It took hours and my hands bled, but finally, the wall gave way. Water rushed through, roaring like thunder. By morning, the river flowed again. When the prince found out, he flew into a rage. He sent his men to search for me, but I hid deep in the forest until they gave up. Word spread quickly about what I'd done. At first, people were scared to thank me, but soon they started calling me Kato the Brave. After that night, things changed, but not right away. Prince Wamala doubled down on his cruelty. One day, a young boy named Mwibes disappeared. He was only 8 years old, but he often helped his mother carry water from the river. Rumors spread that the prince's men had taken him because his family couldn't afford to pay for water. His mother, Kato, cried herself to sleep every night, clutching the tattered cloth sack her son used to carry water. Another time, children playing near the river were whipped by the guards for disturbing the sacred flow. Their screams echoed through the village, breaking hearts already burdened by hunger and despair. Seeing Nakato's pain made me angrier than ever. I knew I couldn't let the prince win. So I gathered a few trusted friends, people who shared my hatred for the prince's tyranny, and we formed a secret plan. Our goal was simple: expose the truth about the prince's greed and rally the villagers to stand together. Under the cover of darkness, we held a secret meeting beneath the same mango tree where the prince had announced his demands. Moonlight filtered through the leaves as I addressed the crowd. "The river is our ancestors' blood. You cannot sell it." I shouted. A single twig breaks, but a bundle withstands the storm. If we unite, we can stop this thief. Eyes sparkled with hope, and murmurs rippled through the gathering. An elder invoked a local myth. The river is guarded by Nyamyanga, the spirit of the deep. This theft will curse us all unless we fight back. Inspired, the villagers began preparing. Women ground herbs into paste to anoint our tools, believing it would protect us. Men sharpened axes and hammers, whispering prayers to the ancestors. Even the children joined in, collecting stones to use as distractions. The moment came sooner than expected. One afternoon, as the prince's men collected water taxes from the villagers, a crowd gathered at the riverbank. There were men, women, and even children, all united in defiance. Kato stepped forward, her voice trembling with emotion. "My son's blood cries out from the earth. You've stolen enough from us." Before the guards could react, Kato began singing a mourning song for her son, her voice rising above the chaos. The guards hesitated, unsure whether to interrupt her sorrow. Meanwhile, children scattered around the area, throwing stones to create noise, masking the sound of hammers striking stone. In the distance, Prince Wamala appeared, riding on a horse, his face twisted with fury. "Who dares defy me?" he roared. Suddenly, the ground trembled. The dam upstream collapsed completely, sending a surge of water rushing toward us. The guards scrambled to escape, abandoning their posts. As the river returned to its natural flow, cheers erupted from the crowd. Enraged, Prince Wamala cursed the village. "This river will drown you in blood," he spat, raising his serpent-carved staff. But his magic backfired. The horse reared up violently, throwing him into the mud as the river reclaimed its path. With a final glare, he fled, disappearing into the horizon. Life in Bwera slowly returned to normal after that. The river continued to flow, nourishing our crops and providing for our families. People spoke of the prince's cruelty in hushed tones, warning future generations to guard against those who seek power at any cost. As for me, I stayed a fisherman, living simply and happily alongside my wife and children. Whenever someone mentions my name, they call me Kato the Brave. But I know the real bravery came from the entire village standing together. Now, when our children play by the river, they sing, "Flow forever, flow for all, no prince, no thief can hold the rain." And sometimes, I watch them plant mango seeds by the riverbank, knowing that renewal begins with small acts of faith.